Yes.
Na shakwanya bada boo.
Okay. And welcome to our episode review of The Lion King.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
I believe Eric has a little bias towards.
That I definitely do. I mean, this was a movie that I grew up loving. I had it on VHS as a kid, and I watched it so much as a kid. And I remember I would reenact scenes of the movie when I was younger. And I
Well,
mean, heck, I even named my own dog Simba.
well, uh, for this thing, I dug out the closet and found this.
But yeah, I actually have that exact DVD. I have two of the Blu-rays. I have the Blu-ray that came out in 2011. Then I have the one that came out in 2017. I have the VHS. Still, I have Lion King 2. So yeah, I clearly am not biased at all when it comes to the Lion King.
Yeah. But it's Nick's not here yet. Oh, he's gonna be here now. But he mentioned something I want your opinion on.
Okay,
Apparently, there's an upcoming prequel to The
there
Lion
is.
King.
Yeah, so the prequel is a prequel to the remake, and I've been very vocal saying how I did not like the remake. But from what I've heard, yeah, it's a prequel, but some of it's like a sequel too. So I guess it's a pre-sequel. I guess if you want to call it that.
So it's gonna have scenes from The Lion King 2 then too, plus
Plus
this.
flashbacks of when Mufasa and Scar were younger. But yeah, a lot of fans in like the Lion King fan groups that I'm in, people have been saying that for years. Like that there should be like a prequel like about Scar and Mufasa's younger years. Well, we're finally getting that, but in the remake continuity. Well, at least we're getting it, and it's coming out on the same day as Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
So I'm guessing which one you're gonna prioritize.
Yeah, I mean, this one might learn from the mistakes of the remake. I really hope that they do.
Well, if it's just a pure prequel, at least it'll be an original story. Then it'll be good or not, it'll be original. It'll be original.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was a huge problem with the remake. It's like if you've seen the original, you've seen the remake, but with the remake, like that they cut out some of the most important scenes, like how when Rafiki says, "Yes, the past can hurt, but either can run from it or learn from it." That was the whole moral of the movie, summed up perfectly, and they cut that in the remake, and instead it's Simba being Captain Obvious saying, "I'm Simba, son of Mufasa." Like,
But Eric, they had to do that 4 minute poop joke.
oh gosh, that was cringe. Like in the original, you saw Simba's hair travel, and it only took like a few seconds. It's because we get the point. But in the remake, they full on drag it out where you see an animal eat it and then poop it out. It's like that was so unnecessary. Hey Tyrannitherium, hey Tony Montana, how's it going? But yeah, and and then in the remake, they cut out the Mr. Pig thing, and instead it's Pumbaa making like a woke fat joke, and rather than the hula song, Timon and Pumbaa sing "Be Our Guest" from Beauty and the Beast. Yeah.
I think the only song that was still not as good, but decent in my opinion of the remake was "I Can't Wait to Be King."
Yeah, and about that. So in the remake, they made it so realistic where like the musical scenes felt really really bland, where the original like felt a lot more alive because it's animated. That means that they can have more vibrant backgrounds during the
Yeah.
musical numbers. But in the remake, it's so realistic where it feels bland and kind of boring to watch. I have to say this, Mona Puma. But yeah, now Seth Rogen was a good choice to play Pumbaa. They should have dubbed him for singing, because Seth Rogen singing Hakuna Matata, that was cringe. And also, what they did to Be Prepared, that's like the greatest villain song of all time. And it's barely even in the movie. It's like that Scar talks most of the lyrics, and he doesn't actually sing it until the last few seconds. It's like that song is so important as to who Scar is and what his motives are.
All right. So, flashback to 1994.
Yep, 30 years ago now. Wow. Doesn't that make us all feel old knowing that the Lion King's now 30 years old? But I mean, heck, that is the reason why that we're doing this.
I am pretty sure I saw this movie in the theaters when it came out.
I did not, although I wish I did see it in theaters when it first came out. I didn't finally get my chance to see it in theaters until it was re-released in 2011. It was back during like the 3D craze, is because of Avatar, and then everything was in 3D, and they even were re-releasing movies in 3D, and The Lion King was one of them. And the really cool thing about Lion King, when it was re-released in 3D back in 2011, my senior year of high school, it still was number one at the box office. And that right there shows like the pure power of the Lion King. Even years later, when it's re-released in theaters, it's still number one at the box office.
Oh, off topic real fast. Did you hear about the Spider-Man marathon this month?
I did, yes. And the only Spider-Man movie I have not seen in theaters was the original, so this could be my so this could be my second chance.
The only one I never saw in theaters was the two Andrew Garfield ones.
Okay, well,
Um,
Andrew Garfield, I thought that he did an excellent job
yeah.
playing Spider-Man.
But yeah,
I think
but I am not sure I want to see the second one. I'm not sure I want to see the death and full in full screen.
But yeah, the second Amazing Spider-Man, it had some good ideas, but
Yeah.
anyways, we're getting way, way, way off topics.
Yeah. All right, so it started with a sunrise and animals singing about the birth of the king, future king.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about that scene is there's not a single line of dialogue, but yet you know exactly what's going on. And according to research, that scene actually was supposed to be very dialogue heavy, but it wasn't until when the filmmakers heard that song, they were like, okay, we need to make this like the intro. Like just don't have any dialogue, just play that song. And honestly, that actually ended up making it better anyway. It's because filmmaking is supposed to be about show and do not tell.
Yeah. Hey, you ever seen any parodies of The Lion King?
Yes, I did. I believe that The Simpsons did, like where I forget what character it is, like that they look up in the sky and
Yeah.
they're making fun of that scene in The Lion King where Mufasa's a ghost, and then I believe Bart or Homer like sees Darth Vader in the sky, and then he sees Mufasa, then he sees like some other Simpsons character like who died.
Yeah. I remember one of my favorite ones. I forget who did it, but wait a minute. Oh, I think it was I think it might have been that guy who does trailers.
Oh, are you talking about like the honest
Yeah,
trailer guy? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. He did one where they brought the fact that all the animals were coming up that are the guy that's going to eat them soon.
Yeah,
Like,
but yeah, a lot of people have mentioned that. But I mean, to be fair, that actually was addressed in the movie itself. And then Mufasa says, "Yes, Simba," but you know, um, and then the antelope like become a part of the grass, and then the antelope eat the grass, and so we're all connected to the circle of life.
circle of life, yeah. And then I got we have to bring this up. The everyone's made
Simba,
fun of it. The
yeah,
incest joke.
yeah, and now look, I totally get it, and they don't address who Nala's father is, and that's often pointed out to be like a plot hole in the movie. And now I get it; they want to carry on like with the plot,
Yeah,
and they may or may not have wanted to have like a pointless character in the movie. But to be fair, lions actually do incest in real life, and lions actually do not care.
yeah,
Humans, yes, care, but lions don't.
yeah. It's, there might be another pride out there. We don't know. Because lions
Yeah,
have different
and I
prides.
mean, considering like with Lion King 2, um, Scar actually had like a whole pride to himself. So yeah, it definitely could be argued like that maybe Nala's father was like a part of that pride. And
But yeah,
Tyrannotherium, I heard in 2000 they made the Lion King in IMAX. Yes, they did. I wish I would have saw that, but it is what it is. And
so
then yeah, and then Lion King was re-released yet again in 2017, and then of course I saw it then too when it was re-released.
so all right. King is born. The king learns about the circle of life. The king is annoyed by a friend that's a girl, and then we find out the king has an uncle who's not the king.
Scar. And yeah, and Scar, in my opinion, is one of the best villains ever because oftentimes you think a villain has to be a physical threat. Scar's more of a psychological threat. He's not really a physical threat. It's because that it's implied during the beginning, like when Scar says, "Oh, I wouldn't dream of challenging you to Mufasa," and then during the end battle of Simba and Scar. Sorry to jump ahead, but Scar tries to get the advantage like by throwing whatever that was at Simba's face, uh, just so that he can catch Simba off guard and then attack him. And considering that Scar manipulated Simba, manipulated the entire lion pride, and knowing that he lied to the hyenas, and knowing that Scar planned out that whole thing, like with killing Mufasa. Now, yes, Scar is evil, but Scar definitely is pretty intelligent, knowing that he planned that whole thing out, and it almost worked. But Scar's downfall was the fact that he trusted, like that the hyenas got Simba, and then Scar's other downfall it is his arrogance.
Yeah. Uh, people have also brought up about its connection to a Shakespeare play.
Yes, actually, it's funny. In all of the marketing, Disney was saying how, oh, hey, Schnick, we might be able to come in later, maybe. Okay, well, join if you can. But yeah, in all of the marketing, Disney probably did this, for marketing purposes. They're saying, "Yep, it's an entirely original plot," when it's not. It's actually based off of Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Shouldn't be a surprise considering that a lot of Disney movies are based off of public domain properties, and William Shakespeare is one of them. They also based some of it off of Exodus, so like from the Bible, and they based it off of other things too. But yeah, that whole thing in the marketing where they said, "Oh, it's original story." No, it's not. But yeah, but they took already existing stories, and then they repackaged it.
Then they play. I think one of my favorite songs of the movie. I Can't Wait to Be King.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. That's a very very catchy song, and that song I feel like it's essential like to Simba's character arc. It's because he goes from being excited, then he goes to being too intimidated, like to go take responsibility and to live up to his legacy in life. And one criticism I've heard of the Lion King is that Simba during the beginning of the movie is so obnoxious. I'm like, think back when you were a kid. Think back when you were excited to go to Disneyland, you were excited to go to the toy store, you're excited to get that new video game. I mean, that's something what a lot of kids are like. And on top of that, it's a part of Simba's character arc. Is that like he goes from being immature, like to being insecure, to like to overcoming all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Junebug mentions the Kimba the White Lion controversy. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I've heard about that, but I haven't really seen the White Lion to compare it.
I personally think it's just a coincidence because Simba does mean lion in Swahili, and I mean Simba in the movie obviously is a lion, and yeah, while there may be some similarities to the Lion King with Kimba, but there are also things that are not alike too. So yeah, I personally think it's just a coincidence, but one of those things like where people can think what they want.
So, well, before he went on his little singing musical, Scar had I'll say bribed him, but tempted him to go to the elephant graveyard to be a brave little boy.
Yep, exactly, and that's one of the things that makes Scar such a unique villain. It is the fact that he's so manipulative, and that is just as damaging, like as somebody like who is a physical threat.
Sometimes mental threats can leave scars longer than physical ones.
Oh, definitely, yeah, and then knowing that all those lies that Scar said throughout the movie, I loved how it had that payoff at the end, like when Simba said, "Why should I believe you? Everything you ever told me was a lie," which actually was true. And then knowing how Scar and then lied about the hyenas, and then the hyenas overheard him, which then caused Scar to lose his life. And yeah, karma's a bitch.
Yeah. So the uh the three main hyenas trap him with the back hyenas do. The female leader one played by Whoopi Goldberg.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I believe her character's name was Shenzi, and then Cheech, the guy from Cheech and Chong, voices Bonsai, which is ironic to think that a guy who's known for stoner movies is in a Disney movie. And then Ed was voiced by Jim Cummings. And funny thing about Jim Cummings, when they were doing Be Prepared, Jeremy Irons, like who did an excellent job voicing Scar, by the way. After when he said the phrase "You won't get a sniff without me," he actually blew out his vocal cords. So and then they needed somebody to fill in. And then Jim Cummings came in, filled in for Jeremy Irons. And honestly, I never even noticed that wasn't even Jeremy Irons. I mean, that's how talented that Jim Cummings is.
yeah, Jim Cummings that has done a lot of Disney character voices throughout the years.
Yeah, like I believe he's also the voice of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. And yeah, like he's been the voice of a lot of characters, and like wow, like he is talented, knowing that he can sound exactly like these characters, especially when they were people who voiced said characters before him. So yeah.
Yeah. So the kids are saved by Mufasa, and then Scar does his villain song.
Yep. Which, if you see my karaoke videos, you definitely will know that I love to, whenever I go to karaoke, that I love to do that song. I mean, heck, doing that song at karaoke is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. So, all right. You want to go through the plot a little bit now?
So, yeah, out of curiosity, what do you think about Be Prepared compared to all these other villain songs?
It's the only one I can remember. It's the only one I can really remember. I don't remember most of the other villain songs.
But yeah, it's definitely one of the most catchy, and it's menacing.
Oh no, well, no. The only one I remember more than that one was the one in Aladdin. But yeah, other than that, I don't really remember with the villain songs.
Okay, but yeah, in my opinion, I think that Be Prepared is, if not one, but yeah, people often will say that Hellfire from Hunchback of Notre Dame is the best. In my opinion, I think it would have to Be Prepared because it tells you everything that you need to know about Scar.
Hellfire, I forgot about that song.
Oh yeah, and so about Be Prepared, there also is like some symbolism in the movie, like with the way how the hyenas march, and like with how Scar's like on top of like that rock. I believe it's supposed to be symbolism like to Hitler, like from World War II.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it does make sense.
So then Scar lays the trap, getting Simba out in the middle of a canyon.
Which actually was really clever of Scar, considering that Scar did watch the whole thing unfold, like with how Mufasa came and saved them, knowing how Simba was trying to roar at the hyenas. Scar intentionally used that against Simba just to trick him, is because that Scar saw that, okay, I see that Mufasa like was the one who came in and ruined my plan. So ultimately, I need to get rid of Mufasa, just so then that way that like that my plan can unfold. And yeah, and ultimately, yeah, that was very clever on Scar on his part. And I guess one thing that I question is that, okay, the animals clearly can talk in the Lion King universe. Why didn't the wildebeest say anything like about how the hyenas chased them? But to be fair, I guess the wildebeest just didn't know like that it was all a part of Scar's plan.
I think also maybe they were at this point. It might have been smart, but they're still on scared instinct, and sometimes that overpowers your other senses, your fear.
Yeah, true, yeah. Fun fact, the wildebeest running with CGI. Yes, that actually is true. And I know that because I took animation my senior year of high school. And during that class, my my teacher told everybody that it took Disney a long time just to do that wildebeest scene, because it wasn't just one wildebeest, it was a whole herd of them. And they also wanted to have all the wildebeest not look the exact same. And yeah, and all the wildebeest was CGI. Watching the movie, you would never even know that. It's because they make it look like 2D animation.
They're probably one of the first CGI things then in Disney.
Probably, yeah. And I also know that all of like the smoke during that scene was all CGI. I mean, to be fair, drawing smoke in 2D animation it would just be easier just to have the smoke be CGI, just to, or wait, not smoke, like all of the debris, like from all of like the dirt. I guess that would make sense.
Now, here's the. I've seen this question asked before. Do you think it was the wildebeest or the fall,
Um,
or a mixture of both?
which of those like that killed Mufasa?
Yeah.
So the wildebeest, I think, did do some damage to Mufasa, but ultimately Mufasa almost survived, but then Scar and then pushed him off. So I definitely do think that the wildebeest did help contribute to it, but ultimately it definitely was the fall itself.
Then we get to one of the main points, not points of the movie, but one of the main plot points: guilt, Simba's guilt,
Yeah,
and being blamed.
yeah, and that's one of the things that's so beautiful about the movie is his arc, is the fact that when you're a child, it's a lot easier like to manipulate a child, and when it's childhood trauma, it's a lot harder to overcome it, and that will carry on with you throughout your entire life. And so yeah, and that's what made Scar just such a threat. And I will never forget, there was this video that went viral of a dog watching The Lion King, and then the dog was whining when Mufasa died, but then as Scar showed up like that, the dog actually started to bark and growl. So I'm like,
Who's
wow. That,
Simba?
no, it wasn't my dog. It was some other dog. I believe it was like a yellow lab or a golden retriever, like that was watching The Lion King. I'm like, wow, that is a smart dog. That I can understand that. Okay. Is there any reason why it's not one of your? Is that? Is there any reason why it's not your favorite Disney movie or what? Well, the wildebeest killed Mufasa. But yeah, I think it was the fall itself because that was a pretty big drop that Mufasa fell from. Oh gosh, Nick, yeah, we talked about that. The Lion King remake was a disgrace, an absolute disgrace to the original movie. Like, if it ain't broke, then don't fix it. And I'm out of focus. All right, hopefully I'll get back in the frame. But yeah, and then of course, and what I love about that scene is that there's payoff to it at the very end, like when Scar says, "Run away, Simba, never return," and then how at the end Scar says, "Oh, tell me what to do, Simba. I'll do anything," and then Simba says the exact same thing on that Scar said to him all those years ago. And yeah, and that's what I love about. That's one of the things I love about Lion King is that when it sets something up, that there is payoff. And I hate how Mufasa's going. Yeah, that's what I worry about too. I think they should change the release date for Sonic 3. I really think that they should. But yeah, I personally don't think Mufasa is going to be any good. But and then and then the hyenas attempt to kill Simba, but they fail, and then they're like, "Yeah, probably good out. They're dead anyway." And then the hyenas lie to Scar, saying, "Oh yeah, we killed him." And then, well, I guess that's kind of karma on Scar's end, considering that he lied to a lot of the other animals, and so I guess Scar shouldn't be upset, like when, like when, like when somebody lies to him too.
Then then Simba meets his, I would say, step parents for the foreseeable
Yeah,
future.
Timon and Pumbaa. Which interesting fact about Timon and Pumbaa? Nathan Lane and Ernie Sabella, like who played Timon and Pumbaa in the movie, originally they auditioned like to play the hyenas, but then the filmmaker saw, okay, these guys would make a much better Timon and Pumbaa. And it's a weird thought to think that Ernie Sabella and Nathan Lane almost voiced the hyenas. But I definitely do agree with the filmmakers that that they definitely were a much better choice for Timon and Pumbaa. And speaking of original choices, the original choice to play Mufasa actually was Sean Connery. I think James Earl Jones was a much, much better choice. Not that Sean Connery's a bad actor, it's just James Earl Jones just has more of like that commanding, dominant voice.
Which does bring up the question. Well, if it's a prequel, it'll be younger anyways. But who's going to play Mufasa in the prequel?
It's some unknown actor. But yeah, like look, it was great to have James Earl Jones back in the remake, but you can tell in the remake his voice is tired. Oh, Ghost Rider, your birthday is on Monday. Well,
happy birthday, early birthday.
All right, well, happy early birthday, man. I'll be sure to make a birthday video.
Should we sing happy birthday to him real fast?
Sure. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ghost Rider. Happy birthday to you.
You can clip that if you want to.
Okay.
Well, he can, but you can too, I guess.
Yeah. So, anyways, back on topic. The original choice for Scar actually was Malcolm McDowell, who was in A Clockwork Orange, and he was Dr. Loomis in Rob Zombie's Halloween. I actually can see Malcolm McDowell as Scar, but I am really glad it was Jeremy Irons, because Jeremy Irons was perfect as Scar. Yeah, Ghost Rider, of course, anytime. Oh, by the way, don't get in a hot tub with Pumbaa. Yeah, we know that from The Lion King 1.5.
We'll get to that in a bit. So, I didn't think about this until recently. Technically, when Simba went on his bug diet for a few years, technically that's still meat.
It is, yes. It is meat, and people have said, oh, well, a lion can't survive off of that. I'm like, it's a movie.
Yeah.
I can let that slide. And that's probably why in the remake, why they had other animals there. But, I mean, ultimately, it didn't bother me. And
I mean, it's insectivore, but some people say insectivores aren't carnivores. I don't know. Maybe they're not, but they still eat other animals. So,
but yeah, and I mean, ultimately, Vandalia does have a point like that. Eating insects, it is meat still, I guess. Maybe not like antelope meat or zebra or whatever, but you are still consuming a living thing, and you can argue that like with plants. But yeah, plants are alive, but not in the same sense like as animals are.
Plus, as much as some people will say it, like pre-fall people, carnivores did not eat plants.
But yeah, but that's a different topic for a different day. But yeah, and then so I took film history back in the fall, and we really learned about like a character arc, in the 3 acts. I consider the Hakuna Matata part, that's the second act dip, like where the main character thinks that they have the problem figured out when they actually don't. Like Simba thinks that he has the problem figured out with this whole Hakuna Matata thing. And while yes, Hakuna Matata definitely has some really good moral lessons to it, but I mean, ultimately Simba was avoiding his responsibility.
Yeah,
and
I think it's like you should find a I think both sides are good. You need a balance. You need to face, but you can't let the past define you. But you also can't run away from. You also can't like, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And originally in the script, Simba was going to tell Timon and Pumbaa about what happened to Mufasa when he first meets them. But I think that was a wise choice to have that change, like where Simba doesn't tell them until much later on. But yeah, I think that that was the better choice. And some people criticize Timon and Pumbaa saying, "Oh, they're just jerks." I'm like, okay, that's not true because there is that scene in the original Lion King. Timon and Pumbaa actually leave their home just to come help Simba. And then Timon even says to Simba, "Well, Simba, if it's important to you, we're with you until the end." So it's like, did you even pay attention to the movie? It's like that right there proves that no, Timon and Pumbaa are not jerks.
Then we get the reunion and the love song.
Yeah, and there's that infamous part in during the love song where Nala gives him like those, sexy eyes, which they cut in the remake. But yeah, that clearly implies that they had sex, which shouldn't be surprised considering Lion King 2 and at the very end of the movie where Simba has his offspring. But yeah, and then Nala is trying to find help. She happens to run into Simba, and she's shocked that Simba's alive because she was under the impression that he was dead. I mean, I would be shocked too if I found out that someone who I thought was dead for many years actually was alive the entire time. And
especially your childhood friend.
yeah, especially that. And Nala is trying to convince Simba to come back. But I mean, this makes sense with his trauma that he's too scared to go back. And then Nala says, "Oh, and your mother, what would she think with you being alive?" Which parallels earlier to what Scar said about him manipulating Simba and saying, "Oh, Simba, it's your fault. What would your mother think about all this?" And then Simba has that look on his face as if he's reminded of like the past trauma that happened earlier in the movie. And and yeah, and some people criticize saying, "Oh well, how did the Pride Lands like get that look that bad?" I mean, to be fair, if the Pride Lands looked the exact same as they did earlier in the movie, I felt like that perfectly represented Scar's lack of responsibility. And there are some people who interpret it this way, including myself, saying that Scar is a representation of what Simba would have been like had he not matured. I mean, case in point, look at what happened like to the Pride Lands, knowing that he just didn't give a crap. And
I always wondered how him being charged caused a drought.
say, what, sorry?
I was wondering how him being Scar being charged caused a drought. Because when Simba comes back, with spoilers, when Simba comes back and roars, the rain comes back.
Well, I guess it's, that's like part of like the metaphor of the movie. It's how like, once when Scar is there, well, like that there is no peace, like there is no happiness.
There is no circle.
Exactly, like that there is no circle of life. But then once when Simba takes his place in the circle of life, and then it comes back.
So Simba, Nala, and Timon and Pumbaa all come back to face off with Scar.
Yeah, and before then, Rafiki finds out
Oh yeah,
that Simba's alive, and then he goes and finds Simba, and
and that's the famous hitting him in the head with a stick scene.
yeah, and then part of Simba's motivation is that he sees his own father like as a ghost inside of like up in the sky. And yeah, that's a very powerful scene. And and then of course the whole metaphor, the whole meaning of the movie is when Rafiki bonks Simba on the head and says, "Oh yes, the past can hurt, but either can run from it or learn from it." That is a really, really good, valuable life, life lesson.
Uh, so,
And then of course Simba goes back to the
uh,
Pride Lands and decides to confront Scar.
uh, should we talk about the controversy about the cloud scene?
Oh, the cloud scene. So Disney said that with the dust going up in the air when Simba falls down is supposed to say SFX, but people have said, yeah, that says sex. And Disney is known for having a lot of hidden sexual undertones in their movies. Like the most famous one is in The Little Mermaid with the VHS cover where a piece of the castle looks like a man's you know what.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, as Nala and Simba did a sarcastic with love. My mind is blown. And bugs actually taste good. I've eaten bugs before. Well, good on you, man. Alma. Hey, Alma. And Ghost Rider. Do I think they'll make a Lion King 3? Well, technically they did with Lion King 1.5. But if you mean like a sequel to Lion King 2, well, I guess it depends on if you want to count the Lion Guard as Lion King 3. But like an actual movie sequel to Lion King 2, I think that they should, but ultimately that's not what we got. Instead, we got the unnecessary remake. But yeah, but anyways, and so Scars. Oh yeah, so there's a scene in The Lion King. This right here proves that Disney knows "It's a Small World After All" is an annoying song because Zazu starts to sing that song, and then Scar's like, "No, no, anything but that." And then Scar, and then knocks his Simba's own mother down onto the ground, and then that's when Simba shows up, and and then people think, sorry, the lions think it's Mufasa, and only find out that no, it's Simba, and then Scar finds out that oh, it's Simba, and then right, understandably so, he gets pissed off at the hyenas. Scar then tries to manipulate Simba yet again, and then this is Scar's downfall when he's hey Schnick.
Hello, I made it.
But yeah, welcome. But yeah, I was just about to talk about the scene like where Scar admits that he was the one who killed Mufasa. I was just about to say that that is one of Scar's biggest downfalls was
Yeah,
his arrogance.
yeah. He had Simba the same way he had Mufasa on the cliff, and says, "Something about this seems familiar."
Oh, where have I seen this before? Oh, let me think. Ah, yes. This is just the way your father looked before he died.
It sounds more like a Batman voice than it
Like,
does
what are you
Scar.
saying? I killed
I
Mufasa.
killed Mufasa.
And then superhero strength time. Simba gains his strength.
Yeah, and but yeah, what I always argued about that is the reason why Simba was able to do that. It's because that he got that big of an adrenaline rush, knowing that he finally figured out like that it was Scar the entire time, like who did it.
I just figured it
So,
was. I just figured it was simple protagonist plot progression that every protagonist gets.
but yeah, I always thought that it was just the added adrenaline rush that Simba got, which is why that he was able to jump up at Scar, and then but yeah, but then that whole battle and then takes place, and it was a good visual choice to have the fire in the background because the fire perfectly represent all of that rage that was going on.
Oh! Before he died, somewhere in the battle, he tries to put the blame off on the hyenas. I think,
That's what makes them mad.
and they hear him.
Yeah, and then Simba chases after Scar, and then Scar is trying to manipulate Simba yet again, but there's that saying, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times, yeah, definitely shame on me." But yeah, it's not going to work on Simba now. And then Scar then blames the hyenas, but that's also one of Scar's downfalls. Was it was his dishonesty and knowing that that eventually caught up to him. And then the hyenas, like who Scar lied to, saying that, "Oh, you'll have plenty of food forever," and then during around the third act, the hyenas actually started to complain about how there wasn't any more food. The hyenas overheard Scar when I think the hyenas actually were about to help Scar fight Simba, but since that they heard him betray them, they're like, "No, screw you. I'm not going to help you now."
Yeah, I think the hyenas realized even under Mufasa, they had probably had more food. I mean, they might have had more food originally with Scar, but they probably have their life under Mufasa. I'm guessing.
Exactly. And I also think that that's part of like the message of the movie is to not follow a wolf inside of like a sheep's wool.
Oh,
And
Snick, you missed this earlier, but
yeah, the Lion King special edition version. Oh yeah. For that version, they added the morning report. That song, in my opinion, was really unnecessary.
oh yeah.
But yeah, I
I don't
much
even
rather.
think current prints of the movie even have that.
But my favorite thing about this one was the game, the virtual reality game, the Safari game. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, in the Broadway version, I do know that they did have the morning report, but I don't believe that they have it now. But yeah, honestly, that morning report scene is so unnecessary.
Well, I think in the Broadway person they have an all African cast, which I
Which,
heard about.
yeah, which does make sense. And speaking of the Broadway version, I'm finally going to see the Broadway version in summer of next year. And I've been wanting to see the Broadway version for over 10 years, and now it's finally my chance. But
In
anyway,
your area, are you going to Broadway?
I am going to go to New York.
Ah,
And yeah, and from what I heard, there's been a lot of sightings. There's been a lot of sightings like of Jim Carrey in New York. So it's possible that not only will I see The Lion King on Broadway, I also might run into Jim.
oh, anyways, Pumbaa does his hula dance.
I believe that was before when Simba and Scar had their final battle, but yeah, that actually was something that we forgot to mention is when Timon and Pumbaa do like the hula dance. I actually believe that was not in the original script, but then they added that in. But yeah, and then oh yeah, this also was something that they built up to. Nala throughout the entire movie was pinning down Simba, and then Scar pinned down Simba. Scar's about to attack Simba, but Simba learned his lesson about that, and then Simba and then kicks Scar off, like off of that rock, and then Scar falls down to the ground. He sees the hyenas. He's like, "Oh, my friends," and then they're like, "Friends? I thought you said that we were the enemy." "That's what I heard, Ed." And then all the hyenas gather around Scar. Scar has a look on his face. He's like, "Oh shit, I fucked up." And
Also,
yeah,
I think about it at the time until later I learned about how hyenas work, and the female hyena was the boss almost of the.
yep. And then, of course, the rain comes down, which and then shows that all the rage is over. There's even a scene where a brief moment where you see a wildebeest skull being washed away, which perfectly represents all the trauma like that Simba experienced earlier in the movie. So yeah, and that's The Lion King, in my opinion, one of the greatest movies ever made.
So, Nick, did you see the Lion King when it first aired in '94?
I wasn't around in '94.
Uh,
I mean, I got it on VHS at a pretty young age, and I was
I also
watching it a bunch. I never really considered it my favorite of the Disney movies, but I mean, I recognize that's a work of art.
Yeah, and matter of fact, I believe Lion King is the top-selling VHS tape of all time.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
Not surprised either. But hey, guys, I will be right back. So you two continue talking.
Yeah. My favorite Disney movie at the time was the one that came right before it, Aladdin.
For me, it's either Aladdin, Mulan, or Lilo and Stitch. Those are like my picks for like the top Disney stuff.
Because at the time, Aladdin was the first movie I would say I enjoyed. The previous, when I was growing up, the previous two movies were girl movies, Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. Quote, quote. And as an 8-year-old boy, I didn't like girl movies. Cooties.
I guess Rescuers Down Under was too cute.
Oh, yeah, I did see that one.
Yeah, everybody forgets about that one from the Disney Renaissance, and I am not happy about that.
I did not see the original one because I was too young at the time. I think I was either too young to see that original one, or it was before my time.
I think it was before your time.
Yeah, I did see the Rescuers Down Under in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think you're right. You skipped over for the other bigger movies.
Yeah, like Rescuers Down Under, I thought was pretty great, but it kind of passed over people's minds at the time.
It was definitely less dark than the original one.
Well, the thing with Rescuers Down Under is it was a bit more grand because it had like a bigger animation budget to it, I think.
What I meant the plot was less dark.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily say the original was darker.
Oh, little girl thrown into a mine thing, bring out diamonds or you don't eat.
Down Under is all about poaching.
Well, that's true too.
So poaching's pretty dark in that sense.
So, do you have any of the Lion King's VHS, DVD, Blu-rays on your shelf behind you?
I do have the Blu-ray somewhere. My sister imported a Blu-ray of the second movie from Europe, but I don't know what she did with it. And then I have a DVD of 1.5 laying around somewhere. And we also had the DVD of the first one that I found used before the Blu-ray was back in print, but I think my sister lost it. Then I own no copies of the 2019 remake, and I have no plans to ever get a copy. I plan to watch the 2019 movie once for the inevitable live-action remake binge of Disney movies. I will watch it for that binge, and I will watch it never again.
Any games of the Lion King that you own?
I have Simba's Mighty Adventure on PS1, which is one of the weaker Disney games, because, to quote Brandon, the goddamn lion's tough to control, ain't he?
I did play the Super Nintendo game back in the day. I never got very far on it.
I did, like, I had like a Disney Classic Games collection for Switch that was like a combo of like the Aladdin games and the Lion King games. Though the thing is, the Aladdin games were like only the Sega ones because they couldn't get the rights for the Nintendo ones because different companies. But then later they re-released it with the Nintendo games included, and the Jungle Book was added. But I don't have that release, and I sold that Switch release because I didn't really need it.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier before you got here earlier. What's your opinion on the prequel coming up?
I do not want to support it at all. Part of it is me believing it's just being butthurt that Disney's continuing the live action remake trend. Another part of me is massively butthurt that it's releasing the same day as the third Sonic movie.
Yeah, definitely. And
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah. I brought up earlier. I brought up the one, probably only one, possibly good thing about it. It's an original story. It's not a
yeah,
remake. It's
Some people are also trying to be optimistic for it because the director attached to it is an Oscar winner. Specifically, it's the guy who directed Moonlight.
wasn't mean anything.
so there's
Um,
that.
I mean, that's kind of the point. Like Jon Favreau, who directed the 2019 movie, he's made some great movies.
Yeah, like Iron Man and the
Elf.
Lion King remake. That is his worst movie. And knowing that he did the Jungle Book, which I argue is one of the better live action remakes, and then he did Lion King, and oh god, the big mistake is that he gave the animals no facial expressions, which really hurt all the emotional scenes.
And the thing with Mufasa is that it's looking to be more of the same.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like the thing is, on multiple levels. One, they're sort of making it a sequel. Like they even bring in Simba's daughter from the animated sequel. Like the framing device is that Timon and Pumbaa and Rafiki are telling her a story of like Mufasa. And apparently, so in that level, it looks like it's going to be stupid direct-to-video sequel comic relief. And another thing, does Mufasa really even need a backstory?
Yeah, which like we already got the point in the original movie.
And the reason why I am butthurt about its release date timing is that even though it's universally agreed that Mufasa is probably not going to be great. I mean, there's some people that want to be optimistic, but generally, there's not, on the internet at least, there's not a whole lot of excitement for it.
Yeah.
The bad thing is, it's based on Lion King. People
Yeah.
are probably going to go see that instead of Sonic 3.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah.
I think the reason why, this is my opinion at least, the reason why The Lion King is one of the worst remakes of all the remakes is all the other ones, they tweak the story or change the story just a little bit. May not be much, but they change the story, to a little different thing. Lion King is practically a bit by bit copy of the original story.
Except done worse. And the sad thing is, even though the Lion King remake is popular to hate, it still did bangers at the box office.
It did, and sadly, it made even more money than the original movie. And
yeah, like it made almost $1 billion more than the original did. Now, the box office is a much different landscape than when the original Lion King remake came out. Like, now, it's like people are a lot more selective about what they're going to see in theaters, and billion-dollar movies have become a lot less common.
yeah,
So there's a chance that, and Disney in particular last year, they did not do well at all. Except for Guardians 3, pretty much everything they released was a bomb.
Yep, and but yeah, I feel like part of it is because the inflation's so high. There are people who work 3 jobs and still are barely able to able to make ends meet.
Right.
So I think that's part of it. Going to the movies is so expensive now.
Another part of it is that that Hollywood has taken blockbusters as like the big thing they have to release. Like there was this video I watched how like years ago there would be like maybe one big blockbuster a month, if even that. But now we're at a point where they try releasing 3 to 4 movies intended to be blockbusters a month, and like people have, on top of it being a time where people have to be selective about what movies they have to go to, it's like they're not going to see every blockbuster that releases.
Yeah.
Nope.
Now, I was sticking with this earlier in the chat, but
I definitely do agree. They are the better ones, and I'm not saying that because of my bias, but yeah, Lion King 1.5, it has pretty good animation, which makes sense that got a bigger budget than a lot of the other direct-to-video sequels, considering that Lion King was one of their bigger hits. So that makes sense. And Lion King 2 has a few plot holes, like where was Zira and that whole pride during the events of the original movie? That's something that even bothered me as a kid. It's like, okay, where were they during the events of the original movie? But yeah, other than that, yeah, Lion King 2 definitely is better than a lot of the other Disney direct-to-video sequels. But I will say this, my Lullaby was nowhere near as memorable like as Be Prepared was, and Love Will Find a Way. It was nowhere near as good as Can You Feel the Love Tonight. But other than that, the rest of the songs in it actually were not that bad.
yeah.
Well, the thing I brought up the both Lion King sequels because I am actually in the middle of a binge of the direct-to-video Disney sequels.
Ooh.
Somehow, I am 20 movies in. I have like 7 movies to go. Somehow, I am not dead yet.
I actually
Like, of the 20 I've watched, 9 of them I've considered decent to even good. Like, maybe of the ones I've watched, there's like 4 or 5 I consider good, and like 5 I consider decent. Like, the other 11 are mediocre to, oh my god, I need to die now.
I actually got one of the songs from 1.5 stuck in my head a few times once, the Dig a Tunnel song.
Yeah, that one. Like, I could see, to answer your question about Lion King 2, I think the implication about the pride that was missing during the events of the first movie, I think the implication is that they were just simply part of Simba's original pride and they defected because they were loyalists to Scar after the events of the first movie. So I guess the implication is that they were there, but then they just left after.
Okay, that is fair.
Yeah.
I definitely never thought of it that way, but that is fair. But then that explains the pride, but what about Zira?
Well, I guess you could say she was just one of the generic lions that was there, and they weren't thinking about it at the time of the first movie.
Yeah.
I guess she was. I guess she left when she was still pregnant. Maybe that's why he's the same age as.
Well, that makes sense because I mean, after all, I guess it's implied that Simba and Nala got pregnant with Kiara shortly after the first movie ends. Oh, another thing with Kiara, her adult voice is Neve Campbell, who is best known for playing Sydney in Scream.
Yeah, and I feel like not a lot of people talk about that. Not a lot of people talk about how Sydney from the Scream movies actually is Kiara in the Lion King 2. Not that many people talk about that.
Like, because I'm a big fan of the Scream movies, so that's like bonus points for me right there.
I also am, and yeah, you're gonna be jealous about this. I actually got autographs like from some of the Scream actors. I got one from Roger Jackson, who was the voice of Ghostface.
Oh my!
I also got an autograph like from David Arquette.
Oh my.
I also got an autograph from Matthew Lillard too.
Matthew Lillard. Oh my.
So yeah, I mean, I have definitely built up quite the autograph collection.
Okay.
So any plot points between of Lion King 1.5 and 2 you want to talk about?
But yeah,
I haven't rewatched the second one just yet, but I mean, I will say 1.5 had a kind of interesting take where they frame it as like an NS3K viewing of Timon and Pumbaa watching the first movie and their own story.
Yeah, I did like that mini arc that they had. They were trying to find a new house at the beginning of the movie.
I will say the gags in the movie are like what really help it elevate it above like the standard direct-to-video sequel stuff. Like one thing that actually got me to laugh because it was so abrupt is because you have the scene at the start of the movie where all the meerkats are getting chased by the hyenas, and like there's like this big it's like this big chase scene. All of a sudden, it cuts to a fucking QVC shopping channel because it turned out in the freaking NS3K theater, Pumbaa was sitting on the remote and he accidentally changed the channel. Like, it just comes so out of nowhere that I just thought it was hilarious.
I thought it was hilarious how, at least me personally, how they made Simba and Pumbaa and Timon the reason why the animal pyramid failed at the end. During the whole I can't wait to be king song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one issue that I took with Lion King 1.5 when I was younger is that I didn't like how it was explained that the reason why all the animals were bowing down in the circle of life was because of Pumbaa's fart. While yes, it's funny, but I feel like that it does take away from like the majesty of the circle of life.
The original scene, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like that took away from the original movie. And then how right after that, Timon and Pumbaa sleep. And then the very next day, like that they wake up to I Just Can't Wait to Be King.
Yeah, one of Lion King 1.5's big problems is that it has no idea what passage of time is.
Yeah.
Like, how somehow the next day they wake up and Simba's already an adolescent.
Yeah,
And then there's one point where Timon's mom decides to go looking for him, like, right after they rescue Simba. And somehow she doesn't find him until Simba's already aged into adulthood.
Funny?
I mean, maybe you can excuse it by, well, this is Timon and Pumbaa's own story. Maybe they're changing how things happened on purpose.
But the continuity didn't really line up to the original.
Oh yeah, earlier we made a joke about how Timon and Pumbaa were like Simba's foster parents or step parents. Be like Timon could be like, "Mom, this is your grandson, Simba."
I mean, if you want to imagine Timon and Pumbaa as a gay couple, it makes sense considering that Timon's actor is gay.
Oh, I actually had no idea that Nathan Lane is actually gay.
He is, yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Oh, at the end of that movie, all the Bearcats get to live in the rainforest area or savannah, wherever it's called.
Yeah.
I know it's a rainforest. I don't know the rainforest in Africa.
Probably the savannah.
Oh yeah.
Oasis. An oasis.
Yeah.
So this is something that we should have mentioned earlier. Lion King was not the original title. The original title was going to be King of the Jungle. But then the filmmakers changed it because they realized that lions don't actually live in the jungle. So that's why they changed it to The Lion King. And originally, Rafiki actually was going to be a bad guy. And I think it was probably best like that they changed that. And I also mentioned earlier that Sean Connery was almost going to be Mufasa, and Malcolm McDowell almost was going to be Scar. So yeah, I'm just curious about what your guys' opinions about that are.
James Earl Jones owned the role of Mufasa in the
Definitely.
original movie. Not so much the remake, but that's a different story.
I do agree.
Yeah, I think at that point he was like dying. I'll say he was dying, but his career was dying
Well,
down.
he's much older, so
Yeah.
he unfortunately, I mean, he tries. I mean, he sort of tries, but it's like he just can't carry that level of oomph that he originally had in the movie. That's why he's retired as the voice of Darth Vader, because he just knows he can't do it justice anymore.
Yeah, I mean, James Earl Jones is almost 100 years old.
Yeah,
Is he still alive?
he
is, yeah.
is.
But yeah, that's why that they're going to use artificial intelligence to carry on the voice of Darth Vader. I mean,
Well, no, they got plenty of sound-alike voices for Darth Vader.
that's news to me because I thought that they were just going to use artificial intelligence.
No, like for like the video games, some of the TV shows, they have like one or two Darth Vader voices that have come in to take James Earl Jones's place.
Oh, I had
Yeah.
no idea. Oh, okay.
I figured they'd probably just use God, I can't remember his name now. The new Anakin Darth Vader, the new one.
You mean Hayden Christensen? No, he doesn't. He can't. I don't think he can necessarily do the Darth Vader voice. He just plays Anakin.
Speaking of Hayden Christensen as Sonic 3, so
yeah, he's one of the names that's been tossed around as the potential voice of Shadow.
Yeah, and from what I heard, like from John Campea, that Hayden Christensen will not be the voice of Shadow. It will be somebody else, but it will be somebody who we'll be very happy about. I think it's going to be Keanu Reeves.
That was another popular name going around.
But yeah,
I remember. So they played a trailer at CinemaCon that's not public. Like none of the trailers there are public. But from descriptions of it, apparently Shadow doesn't talk in the trailer. So lots of people are kind of making the guess that he might be silent for the majority of the movie.
Or maybe they did that just to tease people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see why people would believe that he's going to be silent for most of the movie. I don't think that is going to be the case. And Ghost Rider asks, what would a horror version of Lion King be like? Maybe Scar would be a lot more violent, and the hyenas would be more violent.
Or you do the plot of KH2 where Scar comes back as a ghost.
Yeah, which, I mean, didn't Scar come back as a ghost in the Lion Guard, though?
Oh, yeah, I think he did.
Yeah, and the guy who took over the voice of Scar, no Jeremy Irons, and even Chiwetel Ejiofor, who voiced Scar in the remake. Look, Chiwetel Ejiofor's a great actor, but he was miscast.
Like, really, there's a lot of talented actors in the live-action Lion King. It's just they had bad material to work with.
And I feel like that they were directed badly because a lot of them sounded too monotone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, it fits with their blank, expressionless faces.
Yeah, Eric mentioned that he hated the fact that they gutted the villain song in the remake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was one of my really big pet peeves with the remake because Be Prepared is my favorite villain song of all time, and they completely butchered it.
I'll give them one more thing for the casting. So Nathan Lane is a gay guy playing Timon. Well, I believe they got another gay guy to play him in the remake. I forget his name. Was it Billy Eichner, I think?
Yeah. Billy Eichner was the one who voiced him, and Seth Rogen voiced Pumbaa. Those are not African Americans, so I guess they made the.
I think they're the only main cast members who aren't African American.
Yeah, I believe. Wait, John Oliver, who voiced Zazu, is not African American either.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So, Snick, do you have a favorite villain song?
Probably Hellfire from Hunchback.
Yeah, a lot of people say that the best villain song of all time, and I totally get it.
Mine is
Be Prepared is one of the top songs from the original Lion King.
yeah. My favorite villain song besides is Jafar's song in Aladdin, where he becomes a sorcerer and reveals the truth to Jasmine. And
That's a pretty short song too.
So, yeah, you guys, anything else you want to talk about the Lion King series?
There was a Timon and Pumbaa.
There was a show, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I do remember watching that as a kid, and I remember liking it as a kid.
Like, it's a lot more surreal, like, it's very comedy-focused. Notably, it's the only Lion King anything where human characters appear.
Yep, and about the human characters, I heard a fan theory where The Lion King and Planet of the Apes are set in the same universe, and part of the argument is that in the original Lion King, you don't see any humans. But if you want to count the Timon and Pumbaa cartoon show, it does. I feel like that does hurt the argument. But I mean, there are humans in Planet of the Apes as well. So.
Well, I just imagine that Lion King doesn't have human characters because, well, it's set in an area where human civilization wouldn't settle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the time period that the Lion King movies proper are set is very ambiguous anyway.
Yeah.
What kind of primate is Rikishi anyways?
I believe he's a baboon.
Oh, I can make a comment about Rafiki's voice actor. He voices Eli Vance in the Half-Life 2 games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sadly he passed away in 2017, and that's why he didn't come back for the Lion Guard.
Yeah.
Eric also mentioned that he hated that they also gutted Rikishi's line in the remake too.
Yeah, and
well, that's what that remake does. It ruins everything.
Yeah, and Rafiki in the remake is so bland. Like, he doesn't have the charisma. He's just a bland, boring character. It's like that they took away all of his energy.
Like, he's easily one of the best parts of, like, the first two movies, and even the third, like, 1.5.
Yeah, and then in the remake, he was so monotone and...
Because they gotta be super serious, dude. This is the movie for adults.
Yeah, and there also were Lion King video games. I played the Sega Genesis game on Let's Play a Game. That, I just can't wait to be King level. That level is hard. And I never beat the game. Because of that, I just can't wait to be King level. And I got so frustrated with it, like, that I just shut off the...
What's supposed to be Simba, a very, very happy time for Simba happens to be the hardest freaking level in the game.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the pure irony. The only Lion King game I own a copy of is called Simba's Mighty Adventure for PS1. It's one of the rare Disney PS1 games that's not good.
Yeah, and then rather than using the original voice actors, like, they just redubbed all of it. Like, all the cutscenes, like, are scenes from the movie, but they just redubbed all the actors like with the new actors.
Like, I know that the game is primarily an adaptation of the first movie, but if I'm not mistaken, they mix in a little bit of the second movie at the end.
Yep.
So, I have not beaten Simba's Mighty Adventure, but freaking, it's not a good game because it doesn't control well.
Before we end, you mentioned this earlier. That you brought up Kingdom Hearts. What was your opinion of the two visits of the world that Sora and then went on? Nick.
Not my favorite part of the games because of the more excuse me, odd control schemes, but I mean they were fine, I guess.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
so
the first visit was a remake of the movie, and then the second visit was Simba. I think simplifying. Simba still hasn't his arc yet. He the first one he got all bright and stuff. Now he's feeling what's the word, guilty again and depressed, even though he had just defeated Scar the first time around.
Well, they play it up as him just feeling like he's not capable of taking over as king. Like not necessarily guilt over what he not necessarily guilt of what he thinks he did.
True.
yeah, and have you two ever seen the Broadway version?
No, but I know of it.
Yeah, I have known of it since I was a kid. I wanted to see it ever since I was a kid. But yeah, I told Vandilia this. Next summer, I'm finally gonna have my chance.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm so excited. I finally get to have my chance. And people have even said that they think the Broadway version is even better than the movie itself.
Yeah. I was thinking of plays. We brought this up before you got here. What's your opinion on this connection to Hamlet? Do you have an opinion on it?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, it connects to Hamlet well, and to be frank, even the other two sequels connected to old plays. Like the second movie is like sort of like Romeo and Juliet, and I know there's a play that 1.5 like sort of adapts, but I don't know the name of it. Like it's more obscure.
Yeah, like I believe that one's like a mid-cool to like.
Oh right, it's actually connected to Hamlet. Like it follows like these two like guards or something like that. They were like off to the side like during most of Hamlet's events.
Yep, and part of the marketing of Lion King is that they're saying, "Oh, an original story," when that's not true, considering that Lion King is based off of Hamlet, and it's also even based off of some parts of Exodus, like from the Bible. So yeah, so not an original story. And I mean, granted, a lot of Disney's movies are based off of like public domain properties, which is ironic considering how Disney actually changed copyright laws just to prevent properties from going into the public domain.
And they finally lost now that the original Mickey short Steamboat Willie is now in public domain. And of course, everybody's trying to make horror movies out of it now.
Yep, and what's funny, me and my friend Junebug we actually did do an interview like with Simon Phillips, like who plays Mickey Mouse in that movie, and yeah, and I totally get why that they're doing that. It's because it's already a well-known property that you don't have to pay the rights for.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's coming up on your channel? Anything coming up on your channel that you want to advertise?
All right, Nick, you go first.
Well, me, my friends Jado and Miles were suffering through the game Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League for the sake of Jado getting to review the game. We are still planning to play the game anytime it gets a content update just to see how worse and worse the game gets until it inevitably dies.
Okay.
I really was thinking about trying to actually make some SFM animations, but I have to get motivation for that. Like, I mainly have just stuck to pictures.
Okay, well that's great to know. But yeah, for me, I'm taking a break from Let's Watch a Movie because I feel like there was an oversaturation of that on my YouTube channel. So I'm taking a break from that. I eventually will bring back Let's Watch a Movie. And yeah, this upcoming week I'm going to be really busy. I'm going to be busy with taking an acting course while finishing up my semester at MSUB with business. And then I also got the play that I got cast in. So yeah, I'm going to be really busy. What I got coming up, I'm planning on bringing back Horror Movie Marathon. That's been gone from my channel for nearly 10 whole years. I thought, hey, bring it back. I'm planning on bringing that back in October. And I got my third Things That Piss Me Off movie coming out this year, and that's really all.
Cool. As for me, next week I'm doing an episode on the first stars forming and nuclear synthesis fusion. So if you're into physics, check it out. If you're not, then don't. All right. Thanks for both of you. Thanks for both of you for appearing again. Always a nice trio.
Mm.
But until we meet again, never stop learning and enjoy the randomness. I'll see you all next time.
And Hakuna Matata.
That too.
It means no worries.